Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Now, today I am joined by the amazing Stephen Harrold. Stephen, how you doing today?
I'm not too bad. Yourself?
I am doing very well, and I am very excited to have you. Gabby, a good friend of both of ours, kind of hooked us up. I'm glad that we can make this happen. But before we talk about why you're here, I would like the people that don't know you to get to know you a little bit. You are the creator of the YouTube channel, The Ginger Snaps Here, as well as a horror hockey father to one daughter who is definitely following in your footsteps, loving horror. You guys are in Calgary, or you're in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, not Calgary, my bad. So hockey's kind of something that was just burned into you at the start, huh?
Yeah, it was pretty much something that had transpired with my whole entire family. It's a whole hockey family. All cheer for different teams, obviously. My mother, Montreal Canadiens. My father was Boston Bruins. One of my brothers was the Anaheim Ducks. My other brother's the Buffalo Sabres. And originally I was an Edmonton Oilers fan, and then they became a joke. So then I was like, you know what? I'll just go to Tampa. And then I became a Lightning fan. We won 2 straight Stanley Cups. So I was like, yeah, good enough shade.
What you need to do, we need to get some Red Wings fans in that house. And of course, you can't see it. There you go. You need to get some Red Wings fans out there, man.
Oh yeah, I have a few friends who are actually Red Wings fans, and they sit there and talk to me about how does it feel not knowing that the Red Wings are not in the playoffs? I'm like, I'm not used to it. I'm used to them in the playoffs and dominating and just setting the bar for other teams.
It was like 19 straight years, I think it was, that they made it to the playoffs. Like, that's ridiculous. I don't care what sports you're in. I don't care what you're doing. To be at that level, you had to fall off eventually, and that's where we're at now. We're still, we're getting towards the middle to end of the rebuild, but I'm fairly confident it's going to turn out okay for us in the end. We got Yzerman running the show now, so I'll take it.
100%. Oh yeah, 100%.
And like I said, I could talk to you all day about hockey, man, but that's not why we're here. I want to talk about your YouTube channel a little bit. Been out since 2019, always putting out content. And the fan-made film with your daughter, The Night That He Babysat, a Halloween parody, that is available on the YouTube channel. So you can check that out by clicking the links down here in the description. Make sure you're subscribing, and also make sure you're following Steven on all the social media sites as well. But you do have a sequel on the way. Now, obviously, with these fun short films, I don't want to get too much into it because I want people to go and watch it themselves. And you can do that by clicking the links down here. But a little bit about the sequel. What can you tell us a tiny bit about some of the fun you guys are going to have in that?
Okay, so the sequel, originally it was just never planned. It was just like the first one, The Night He Babysat, was just a fun little video I wanted to do with my daughter. And then it blew up on my channel and everyone was asking for it. Like, are you going to do a sequel? And I was like, you know what? If it gets to like 100,000 views, I'll do a sequel. And then within a matter of 97 days, it hit finally 100,000 views. So I was like, you know what? We're going to do a sequel. And then I had to do it justice to make it a parody of Halloween Kills. So now having to go back and rewatch Halloween Kills, I'm like, okay, how can I parody this? I mean, Evil Dies Tonight was pretty much easy to parody. So I was just like, okay, well, that's fun to do. But the little things that I can say about the sequel is that there's not going to be so much of a focus on Michael and the girl that he's babysitting, but more focused on the other characters that are in the movie, because I need to bring them in order to have a parody of the town of Haddonfield. I'm like, but how can I parody that? And I'm like, you know what? I have a way of doing it. And how about it's just a bunch of people pissed off that Michael keeps constantly coming out with new movies. So that's a little bit of a hint.
I can't wait, man. I cannot wait to see this. Do you have any type of tentative release date on when we might be able to check it out?
Well, yeah, it was originally supposed to be October of 2022, but then due to scheduling conflicts, it was pushed back. And I was like, well, I have to do it. So I'm aiming for October 27th of 2023 this year. And I'm going to start shooting all the scenes that are necessary by late July, early August, and then go in for reshoots of the night scenes in particular for around the autumn season in September, because here in Canada, like, the fall season hits in September.
Right. I'm in Michigan, man, so I get it. Like, I understand it. We get that here too. So I can't wait for that, man. And like I said, you guys can make sure that you're checking it out if you subscribe to the channel by clicking the links below. So it's funny that you did a parody of Halloween. I think that's quite comical because that's the perfect segue into why we are here, Stephen. So we know that you got that coming up in the future. And we know that right now, The Night That He Babysat is amazing. It's on YouTube right now. People are loving it. It's great. But now I want to go back to the past, Stephen, and talk about how horror started for you, your first horror movie. And Stephen, your first horror movie was?
Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers.
Yes, sir. Still to this day, I think I wouldn't be too out of line to say that it's a lot of people's top 3 in the franchise. I've talked to a lot of people that are very big Halloween 4 fans. I've never really heard a lot of Halloween 4 hate like I have for other films in the franchise. So, do you remember about how old you were the first time you had seen it?
Yeah, I was about 5 years old. It was October of 1997. The reason why I remember it so vividly was because of the fact that it was like I had gone to Burger King with my family, and they, at the time, Burger King had the Universal Monsters for their Happy Meals. So we got that, went to movie gallery, rented a few movies, and ironically enough, it was the movies we ended up watching were Halloween's 4 and then 5. So it was back to back.
Right.
And
I just the perfect double feature.
Oh yeah, it's a great double feature. I mean, like 4, it's one of those great anniversary type movies. 5, not so much, but I remembered 4 the most.
See, and it's funny because I'm the opposite. Growing up, I was not a huge fan of Halloween. I had never really watched the franchise. So, growing up, I didn't know much about it. So the first one I'd ever seen was 5. And like, there's just so much in that movie that I genuinely love and enjoy. But we're not here to talk about me, Stephen. We're here to talk about you. So we know that you rented the movie with your family. You guys had a family night watching the film. Do you remember which scene it was that affected you the most?
Yeah, it was the scene in which Jamie Lloyd is she's brought back to her room to go to bed, and it's like the beginning of the movie too, and she's praying, and then her closet door opens, and she goes to investigate it. Nothing's in the closet or whatever, and then she goes back to her bed. The door opens again, and then all of a sudden, this arm reaches out from behind under her bed and grabs her in the legs. She's screaming and everything, and next thing you know, she runs to the door, and this person just sits up and looks right at her, and I'm like, whoa, who the hell is that? And then stands up, and just no expression on their face whatsoever. And as a kid, I was scared. And then she opens the door, and he's now behind the door and raises a knife. And like, that scene was just so effective for me. It got me so hooked on who this guy was, and like all the tales I heard from my mom and my dad saying, like, check your closet for the boogeyman, check under your bed for the boogeyman. And rightfully so, Michael Myers is usually called the boogeyman. And I was like, so that's what the boogeyman looks like. Okay, I'm terrified now.
Right. Well, you know what they say about the boogeyman?
You can't kill the boogeyman.
So, justifiably so. And I think another reason that Halloween 4, especially then, got the reputation that it had is because of Halloween 3, which I see that amazing shirt you have on.
Yeah.
That came out and people hated it because there was no Michael Myers in the movie. And then, obviously they had to go back and, take a step back and, well, what do we do now? The return of Michael Myers. So that brought people back to the theater to watch another Halloween film. And honestly, what killed Halloween 3 was Halloween 2. If they would have gone with the anthology like they were supposed to, I think Halloween 3 would have been a much better received movie. Fantastic movie. I know a lot of people that absolutely adore it. I love Halloween 3. But this movie was that let's bring Michael back. Let's bring people back to the theater. And that it did. So we know which scene affected you the most, Stephen. But what would you say your favorite scene from Halloween 4 is?
Favorite scene would probably have to be when Rachel and Brady are looking for Jamie, and they were originally supposed to leave the house, but they're locked in the house. And then they go upstairs, they find Jamie, and then you see Michael standing over the fireplace, and then he just slowly walks up the stairs, and Brady's trying to shoot him, trying to defend Rachel and Jamie, and they have this standoff, and it's practically like he's fighting a losing battle. He's putting up whatever he can to fight back, but Michael's just too unstoppable at that rate. And it was just one of those scenes where it was like I saw Michael unfazed by every little attack he did. And I was like, for someone, and just the camera angles, the lighting, and the soundtrack that was going on, I was like, that's one of the most kick-ass scenes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is a movie where we've lost Laurie Strode. Laurie Strode has died in between Halloween 2 and 4. So you have to rely on, you lost Michael in 3. Now you've lost Laurie in 4, but you still have to find a way to bring that emotional punch. And what better than using Rachel and Jamie? That to me is, and Rachel, say what you will about her in 5, she deserved better, but Rachel in 4 is one of the, she's amazing in this film, and her will to protect Jamie, and she'll do everything she can to protect her. It's amazing. So I do got to mention real quick, though, we do get the death of Ted Hollister in this film as well. So, vigilante justice doesn't always do a bunch of good. And I love the guy that's like, oh, it's Ted Hollister.
Shit, Earl. It's Ted Hollister. You dumb son of a bitch.
That's one of the scenes to me that every time I watch it, I just crack up, man. It's such a great scene. So as horror fans, obviously we love the kills. Kills is something that we are always attracted to. We're always big on is the kills. So which kill from Halloween 4 would you say is your favorite?
My favorite kill for Halloween 4 would probably have to be I can't remember her name, but it was the sheriff's daughter, Sheriff Meeker's daughter. I can never remember her name, but it was just such a weird way for Michael to not only be sitting down, like being incognito, and then he's holding a shotgun, and I'm like, oh, he's gonna shoot her with it, and he just stabs her with it instead and pins her to the wall. I'm like, well, that's inventive. Originally, I wanted to say it was Brady's death, but I'm like, we already saw like a bunch of head crushes. Thanks, Jason. But I was like, I've never seen someone get stabbed with a shotgun through a wall. That's something unique.
Cops do it better, man.
Yeah.
Was it cops do it by the book? Is that what her shirt says? Or cops do
it better. Cops do it by the book. One of my friends says, are you going to get that shirt? I'm like, maybe for a girlfriend, but not for myself.
Yeah, that's dope, man. Well, I mean, we're talking about a franchise here, Halloween, which is arguably one of the most divisive franchises of all time. You have people that love the franchise. You have people that hate the franchise. You have people that think the franchise shouldn't exist. It should have ended with Halloween, that was just the perfect standalone film. But it didn't. And we have a franchise now. So I always ask when we're talking about a franchise, we know your first horror film was Halloween 4. But which film in the Halloween franchise is your personal favorite?
My personal favorite, I came to terms with it, was Halloween 2018. Originally, it was Halloween 1978 for the longest time. And after the abomination of Halloween 2 from Rob Zombie, it was like it left a bad taste in my mouth. So, 9 years of waiting for a new Halloween movie to come out, and then 2018's comes out. I had all the anticipation for it. I was eagerly excited for it, and then went and saw it. And I was like, holy shit, I love this movie so much. Found myself watching it a lot more. And then I realized, you know what? I think it just bumped 78. I think this is my favorite of all time. And then became official. I'm like, yeah, this is my favorite of all time. Halloween 2018 to me was always the Terminator 2 of the Halloween franchise.
I can see that. See, I will always say H2O is my favorite. I love H2O. I think H2O is just so dope. Followed closely by 3, which is followed closely by 2018. Halloween 2018 is a fantastic movie. And I think that Kills and Ends had no chance of living up to what 2018 did. And I like Kills. I like Kills. I don't hate Ends. I've come, when I first saw Ends, I completely hated it. And it's just because of the marketing. It's marketed as the final battle between these two, and it's really the story of how a young boy got beat up by band geeks. But I've come to terms with it's enjoyable if you look at it from an outside lens. But I can't argue with Halloween 2018, man. That movie is so damn good, and it has one of my favorite moments in the Halloween franchise. When Karen's down in the basement, and she's like, "I can't do it." Gotcha. She shoots him. our whole theater erupted into cheers at that moment, man. And I was just like, that was the dopest thing I've ever seen. Like, that was so cool. So I'm glad you're showing Halloween 2018 some love, man. That's awesome.
Oh yeah, I as much as I love to talk about Halloween 2018, I always like to show as much love as I can. That's why my look in The Night He Babysat was based off of 2018. So I was just like, well, it was the most recent, might as well have him look like that. And
Right.
like even echoing what you're saying too, like when I saw Kills, I was anticipating that movie too and loved it. But Ends was like a one where I was like, at first watching it, I was just kind of like, whoa, this is really different. And I don't know how I feel about it. And then watching it again for the second time, I was like, okay, I see it now. Okay, this is actually good. I actually like this one.
See, and it's one of those movies that like, it's just like I'd say with Jennifer's Body, the marketing ruined that movie. You know, people were going into it anticipating something, and they got thrown a complete curveball, and people weren't ready for it. If I think I could have stomached it more if Corey would have been a character in Kills, even, you know, maybe then I could have been a little nicer on the film. But it's a well shot movie. I could have used some better kills in it, and I could have used a lot more Michael. But again, I digress. This is not about Halloween Ends. But you know, Halloween is a franchise that has changed a lot of lives. And while I may not be the hugest Halloween fan, I've said this on the podcast before, it showed you how to make the perfect slasher. You know, Halloween 1978 really is the blueprint for when people are trying to make a slasher film. That's the film that they go to as their inspiration, as you know, everything they want is from Halloween 1978. So you can't argue with the impact the franchise has had in the horror world. Now, what I want to do here is take a little bit of a step back from Halloween, but we might step right back into it. I don't know. My little buddy Ghostface is here, Steven, and he has a question for you. What's your favorite scary movie, Steven? So we know what your first horror film was, but now I want to know, what's your favorite horror movie of all time?
Okay, so favorite horror movie of all time, it would have to be John Carpenter's The Thing. That one I've come into full peace with. I was just like, this is the one movie that for some odd reason, like even like when people talk to me about like, what's your favorite John Carpenter movie? I'm like, it's The Thing. That movie is so perfect. And the hate it got back in the day, so misunderstood, and just how it resonates with people today. It's like, I know a lot of people say The Exorcist, or they say, you know, Night of the Living Dead or Dawn of the Dead half the time. But very few people could say that how The Thing was literally their favorite horror movie. And now that a lot of people are saying it now, it's like, yeah, it's a masterpiece of a fucking film, especially for horror. And I just can't stand the fact that not enough people get to talk about The Thing that much as one of the greats of the genre, because it really is.
It is. The story's fantastic. The practical effects are fucking top notch. And one thing I want to say about The Thing, and anybody that knows me knows I preach this all the time, one of the most underrated scores of any film ever. The score of The Thing is so brilliant. Not just the score, but the absence at times of score. I love that movie so much. It's a masterpiece. And I agree. I think I like The Thing more than I like Halloween 1978. Like, when you talk about your favorite Carpenter films, The Thing has to be up there. Like, it has to be towards the top of the list. It's just, that's no disrespect. You know, Carpenter has done a lot of amazing things, but I mean, he's obviously been a huge fan of The Thing for a very long time. In Halloween 1978, you have them watching The Thing from outer space, you know, and then a couple years later, you know, like that to me is just like the perfect, you know, like foreshadowing. And then he goes and remakes this movie after he puts it in one of his films. So what an amazing moment for that guy. And, you know, I can't imagine the pride he had in having his hand in that remake. So we know how horror started for you, and we know your favorite horror movie, man. And I appreciate the time you've come to hang out with us. This has been a really good time. And I hope that you guys are clicking these links down in the description and subscribing to the YouTube channel, as well as following him on social media, so you can stay up to date on when we're getting the sequel to The Night He Babysat. But before I let you go, Steven, I always end this with the same question. We're going to bounce back to Halloween 4. Wow, I just brain farted for a second. I was thinking 3 because of your shirt. We're going to bounce back to Halloween 4. And what we're going to do is rank this on a skull count. Now, we're not ranking it on acting, production, score, nothing like that. What we're doing here is strictly ranking Halloween 4 on how much it affected you, on your first viewing. So 0 skulls being not effective, 5 being extremely effective. You can use half and quarter skulls anywhere in the middle. Steven, what would your ranking of Halloween 4 be?
Halloween 4 for my first viewing at that time, it was definitely a 5 because it was the first horror movie I ever saw, and that exposure was just like, yeah, like it freaked me out to the point where I was like, when I went to bed and I looked in my closet and I thought I saw Michael's face there. Yeah, super effective. I mean, movie's not effective nowadays today, but at that time it was 100% effective. So definitely a 5 skulls.
Well, I can just imagine you going downstairs like, Mom, either that guy from the movie's in my closet or a really weird version of the guy from Star Trek is in my closet because something's going on right now and it looks like William Shatner. But
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like I said, universally loved Halloween 4. I don't think I've ever talked to anybody that didn't have it in the top 5 of their franchise ranking of Halloween. So love the film. Brutal, fun film. So I do appreciate you coming on. Steven, again, please don't go anywhere, my friend. I got a couple more questions for you. Everybody else, if you haven't already, make sure you like, subscribe, and follow Sledgehammer Horror on social media as well. We'd love to have you along. And until next time, keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.